Welcome everyone to today's panel where we are discussing AI agents at scale across the enterprise. We have got experts this evening. We have got Jen Nolan. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Jen Barnes-Nolan, and I am the founder of Gen AI Consulting. We help small to medium businesses on their AI journey, everything from exploring responsible AI to what you should be building, to all the way to adoption and control, and also implementation and integration of AI solutions.
Very nice. We have Timothy Stockstill joining us from Mexico.
Hi, Timothy Stockstill. I am the CTO and co-founder of Fourth Wave. We help organizations transition from their current way of doing business to the AI era, and have developed a great deal of work in AI governance and accountability.
We're excited to have you here. I also know that you are an agentic AI expert and specialist, and thank you for joining us. We also have got Raji. Welcome.
Hi, Rina. Myself Raji here. I'm an AI and automation architect with almost 2 decades of industry experience. I started as a developer and I wrote multiple different waves of automation, and today in the agentic space. Currently, I work at IBM, but all my views in this session are my own, as you know. And today, my focus currently in my job is to helping organizations to move from AI experimentation to implementation into production, so which exactly cuts across the today's topic. I'm so happy to join this discussion. Thank you.
And finally, we have Deepu Kumar Sin joining us. Thank you. Deepu?
Thanks, Arina. Hey, my name is Deepu Singh, and I'm a senior leader at Fujitsu North America. And my focus area within the firm is around the emerging technologies. I have worked mostly in the sphere of data in my entire professional career. So my specialization goes in enterprise data architecture, more laser focused in the modern data platforms, warehousing, data lakes, and now, moving on to the advanced platforms where we are integrating the computer vision models and the Gen AI capabilities together. That's my core focus as of now, as we are moving forward towards the agentic wave, right? So that's pretty much about me. I'll say I'm looking forward to have chat with the team in here.
So thank you. We are excited to have you. We have a very strong panel this evening, experts on AI agents and enterprise and scale. AI agents are moving fast. We are moving very fast from experimentation towards scale across the enterprise. Where last year it was all about pilot testing, this year companies are putting AI systems into production and everybody is looking to accelerate decisions. We are looking at generating revenue. We are looking at scaling these systems. So my first question to this panel is, everybody wants AI agents, but very few organizations have actually deployed them successfully and at scale. So what do you think are the biggest gaps between the promise and the reality of enterprise agents right now?
I'm good to start. So I think that one of the number ones is really business processes. So like a lot of companies are trying to put AI automation around yesterday's processes. And AI is fundamentally shifting the capabilities and constraints. So a lot of that is companies need to be able to really revisit their business processes. How do they actually go and redesign them and optimize what they actually need to get out of the business process, as opposed to just saying, oh, we're just going to like paste AI here, here, and here to automate steps on the way. It's really about making sure you look at what do we actually want to get from AI? What is the actual return on investment? What are we actually going to save, as opposed to just going after the shiny objects?
Timothy, you work at Fourth Wave. You deal with many customers, many companies reaching out to you and your company for scaling agentic systems across the enterprise. What are you seeing? What are some of those challenges? What are those gaps?
The gaps are, there's two key gaps that limit AI scalability right now more than any other in my mind, and that is governance and accountability. Um, AI can produce data faster than we can process it, and if we can't keep control of what it's doing in a reliable way, then we have a problem. And that means we need new user interfaces, new ways of constraining what the work is done. We talk about agency and AI agents. We use that term a lot, but what is agency? Agency is the ability to go and work on your own behalf without too much constraints. How do we do that as a human organizations? We put controls in place that says, yes, director of such and such, you are allowed to purchase up to X amount of dollars, but not X amount and one. For that, you need to get your boss's approval. If we don't have those same level of controls at a much finer granularity than what we've done for humans, because as humans we can trust, we have some accountability and trust for the humans. We can say, Joe, don't do that, and if you do, I'll fire you. We can't fire an AI agent, we can only delete it. And it doesn't care if we fire it or not, it has no ego. So we need to govern it at a very constrained level in order for it to be able to move at its maximum pace without outpacing us.
Alina, I would like to add, like today, creating agent is now democratized. Everybody can actually create agents. It's much more easier and faster. That is proven. But what is that important that enterprises are now scrambling and challenged with is the return on investment. Is my agent that is deployed giving me the right return on investment? That's a question that every leader is asking. And how can I actually keep a control on cost, right? So even the governance that Timothy just rightly mentioned, I don't want a prompt to go in spiral and just eat up all the tokens and give me nothing out of it. So how can I control the cost at various levels, be it at person, agent, prompt, tool calls, everything, and how can I optimize that in the right way? That's a challenge that keeping everybody up at night and bothered, definitely. Apart from all the other operational issues of like, what is the right process to automate and where is the right low-hanging fruit that I should be targeting, etc.
Yeah, I think I would also like to that. I mean, plus one for everyone who has said governance. Um, but in reality, what I have been seeing, like the promise which we are making from the enterprise standpoint and bringing the agents into the picture, um, I will say the analogy here is we are actually moving from like basic cruise control to like a fully autonomous self-driving cars, right? And to have that in like reality, probably we do have good roadblocks in it. Like the definition itself is sometimes vague, especially in the enterprise. Like the enterprise think they are building a self-driving car, but they actually have just installed a chatbot, which is kind of a cruise control, right? But in reality, the true agents, they actually take the wheel. They reason it. They use some external tools or internal tools, and they execute not just one step of a plan, but they execute multi-step, right? And there are multi-agent control systems also which are coming into place. The second, which always come into play in an enterprise ecosystem, is the infrastructure. Like um, you cannot put a agent or a autonomous car probably into a unmapped region, right? And make it work, right? Enterprises are struggling with that. I- First of all, the enterprises are full of legacy siloed databases and different systems which don't interact with each other, and they are not even compatible with the agent working style. So I think these two blocks are majorly, gaps when we actually try to deploy agent into a enterprise setting. And most of the time they they don't work well because the enterprise is not moving at a very fast speed compared to what agent functionalities are coming day by day, right? Every week we have an enhanced feature within the agent which can enable you to access some XYZ things, but that does not get enforced into enterprise, right? Um, just giving an example, like a mainframe system, you cannot expect an agent to access a mainframe system right now. I mean, if you just try to do that, your agent will show your true colors and it will just disappear for you, right? So it's typically how the enterprise is designed, and I think it will definitely take some time for us to evolve and create that infrastructure to make agents come into play and create a better space for them to make it work out.
And just to add on to that, DP, it's that security layer. It's right. Yeah. If you want it touching your mainframe, you need to build that security layer to give it just-in-time credentials. You don't want it, accessing that treasure of your, core banking system or whatever system you're using. So yeah, we'll see, I think, a lot of growth over the security layers in the next bit.
Let's actually continue with this topic of governance. And I think in today's landscape, companies find that proper governance on these AI agents is a challenge. Some are starting to invest into systems that govern the AI agents, and these are sprouting. But not every company is able to go there and invest the funds needed. The observability, that governance layer, and inventory of those AI agents, it becomes very expensive. So as AI agents gain access to enterprise systems and data and workflows, that governance layer and that security that we are now, that many of you have mentioned, becomes very important. So what should be built from day one rather than later when you're building those AI agents? What needs to happen so that you're building safe, reliable systems?
I can go. So the governance basically starts not after implementing the agent, like even before, right? First at the starting stage where you are actually thinking about the use case stage itself, level itself. So what is this use case? Is it actually going to need what kind of controls and everything in place? So there's an assessment and risk assessment that has to happen from an AI angle, based on the data, based on the model. Like some models, like is it like the models are going to change, or what is the kind of model the data is trained on, etc., right? So even that matters at the level of use case level. And then when it actually gets implementation, it hits the implementation phase, you are actually looking into all the bells and whistles that you need to do on the agent interaction on before and after, right? What the users are interacting with an agent and what the agent is actually doing it, like if the users are entering a PII information, do I have necessary screening plugins and in between layer to mask the information before I can actually send it out to the model, and the responses are actually vetted for any hallucination or any kind of drift in the answer responses. How am I monitoring all of the responses that are coming out? It needs to be filtered from a hate, abuse, and profanity, etc., right? So this happens at the level of when you're building an agent. These are the bells and whistles that I need to keep everything in control. And then once you actually deploy the agent, the next governance that comes in as part of your ops, right? Just like ML ops, the agent ops comes into picture, where you govern the agents through observability and continuous monitoring, and making sure that there is a security aspect and vulnerability aspect of data is monitored, and also based on the use case, the evaluation metrics. So what is my decisions that are made by agents, monitor them, and also any kind of eval metric that I have baseline in the initial, am I actually adhering to the eval thresholds in the agent which is live in production, right? So these are the different levels of controls that organizations needs to think right from the beginning. So start, build, and operate, right? It cuts across all three layers.
And I think the word governance has so much meaning to it. Like you're talking about a lot of the tool governance, like making sure the AI systems themselves are well governed. There's the data governance, there's the people governance, there's the policy governance. There's a lot of different pieces that all need to work together in order for this to actually get successfully through an organization. Like there's so many roadblocks, and often even just getting approval for a use case is, well, who's supposed to approve it? What level is this supposed to be approved? Because it's very hard to manage the risk and really understand the impacts of a particular tool. And I think one thing I see over and over again, it's ownership. Who owns this piece? Who owns it if it goes well? Who owns it if it does not go well? And really trying to find within an organization that ownership structure can be quite a challenge.
I think I would like to add to what Jen said, and for sure that is, I mean, we cannot bypass all of these specifics. We enterprises, they need to, embed these kind of zero trust security models, and to enforce that, you need to definitely, keep allowing or maybe restricting um, the accesses across the board. Like you need to have role-based access directly into like agentic architectures, and treating the AI agents completely like an human employee, right? And give them the least privilege rather than not give everything and anything so that they can create and destroy objects just like that, right? So we need to definitely bound them with some specific privileges, and that's not the end part of it. I will say we have to even think through about how to monitor them, like all the non-functional requirements. We need to make sure that we do have a platform which is governing it, be it a monitoring platform and or a observability platform, you name it, right? There has to be a continuous security controls and checks and monitoring over these agent responses, so that any kind of bias or maybe compliance breaches, if it happens, usually or unusually, business should be informed well ahead in time. Rather, after the fact, they should be, made well aware, like this has happened and you need to take a course correction, or maybe you need to reverse the action to make XYZ things to happen, right? So those are the predominant things which we generally try to um, enforce in any of the enterprise setting, especially from the security aspects.
Definitely. There are too many moving parameters, right? So, for example, in a traditional SDLC lifecycle, I'll be testing my application or a services or something when I'm making a code change. But here, that's not the case, right? When the model version changes, again, I still have to run my tests so that the prompts are responding accurately. Or let's say I'm doing an incremental load for my RAG agent. The data has actually now changed. So now let me continuously monitor whether the prompt is still actually giving me a proper and accurate response. So, or does it need any adjustment, right? So these are some practical scenarios where we all needed that bells and whistles to test it in a continuous fashion.
We have someone from the audience just added a question about ISO IEC 42001. Is it a good governance framework for AI? Now, we have Fausto Correa. Interesting question. This framework was published in 2023. It is intended for AI management. Now, things have evolved since 2023. Personally, I think it's a good one, but it also needs other things and other components in it. And if anyone here on the panel wants to comment, I'm not sure if you looked into this governance framework.
Yeah, this basically like governs. So there are multiple different frameworks that exist in the market, and if your end users are required to adhere, and they demand that your product that you are bringing to the market needs this certification, then it makes sense to actually go ahead and get your product certified, audited, and then make sure that it's adhering to all the bells and whistles of the ask, right? For example, it uses a responsible and ethical way of actually using AI, and you have the system uses the governance and monitoring capabilities. So that's the typical standard. So it depends on what your end users need.
Yeah, I think it's very, very so much depending on the industry. So I was talking to
Yeah.
higher ed, and they would have much different needs than like, banking or healthcare. So it's, really important to look around at the different governance frameworks, depending on if you're a regulated organization or not, and find something, find something that's close and then tailor it to your own organization.
In fact, it is not just by industry and a domain, it's also by region, because different
Yeah.
regions they enforce different laws. Like EU AI Act, probably this will not even work for you, right? You have to add something on the top of it to make that happen. And there are a lot of prohibited AI categories where you cannot even do sentiment analysis in Europe, right? But in North America, this is fully functional, right? So I think you have to pick and choose depending upon where you are trying to target and penetrate into the market, and accordingly, pick the best suited governance framework. I think that is the better way to, give direction to you. I'll not say like this is the best one to go with, but yeah, you need to definitely look out, like if your product is there which is confined to North America market, probably yes, you can use this and you can add extra on the top of it. But if you go in a different region, you may have to, again reverse engineer and get to the better governance framework.
We have another question. What would each expert say to companies that are trying to DIY their AI agent deployments? And we are speaking enterprises, small and large companies. What would you say to that? And I think it also gets into my question around, do you buy, do you build, maybe you wait? Do you do this in-house or do you leverage an accelerator?
And I've seen a mix, and I've seen companies that they're saying, hey, we've stood up our own platform, employees can create their own agents, it's a platform, it's all brought it inside the firewall, so they know where their data is going. I think it is obviously that overhead of how much time you're going to spend building it, how much time you're going to spend maintaining it, because there's so much churn right now. And to me, I'm like, it's the buy versus build. It's going to be a short-term decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your AI strategy should be focusing more on your policy, your approach, and your data architecture and control, because these platforms are changing and they're going to continue to change. And different companies have different depths, and how many bells and whistles do you want on your AI agents, right? Do you want to create your own framework, or do you want to leverage something? So that is not an easy discussion and not an easy decision for companies to make right now. But as I say, don't try to make a forever decision. Try to make a what's going to get us through the next year decision.
Yeah, and it also depends on what is your business or what are you doing, right? So if your business is actually selling a food and servicing like homes or something like that, then you are actually deviating your energy from actually focusing on the business to doing something else, right? So what's in it for you in putting that effort and building that system and then like maintaining that system? So that again goes back to the buy versus build on this fast moving space. So, and I have seen in even the enterprises or the organizations, they come up with a strategy of like, do I want to actually go when they decide whether it is a buy or build. And once their decision is like buy, like what is my vendor strategy? So am I going with single vendor strategy, or I'm going with multi-vendor strategy, or like do I want to actually experiment with a couple of them and then keep them so that I'm not locked into one of them? So it depends on the organizational strategy and what is the business that you're running, and what's your long-term strategy around the business as well.
The most expensive part of this to build, that is the hardest part to build, is this governance layer. Andrea and I have been spending a lot of time recently working on a book together, The Adaptive AI Enterprise. And in that, we argue that to be successful with AI, you need two things. You need an AI operating system, and you need an operating model. The operating model governs the most important of the two questions, which is the how people are going to work with this, how the process is managed, how the workflows are done, the entire the soft skills, the soft arts, if you will, that are critical. The operating system is there to provide all of that governance, and that's what is expensive to build. You have to trap everything. You have to have a single identity management system. You have to have a single form of access controls and either RBAC or schema-aware RBAC or ABAC. You have to have various different things in place in order for this to success. You can't bolt it on at the end. That's where your money is going to go.
Yeah.
That is where the investment is going to be in the early days of AI. The investment is not, can an agent do something for you? That's never been the problem. That's never been the question. Can the agent do something for you? That's not the wrong question. Can the agent do something for you that won't damage the reputation and integrity of your business? That's the question. Can you govern it? Can you trust it? Can you keep it in a box and let it out when you need to, and let it be what it can be? I've worked with agents for a long time. And I feel like most of the time, I feel like I'm a lumberjack with a chainsaw doing ice sculpturing. AI agent can do a lot, but it's a bit of a chainsaw, and it can just as easily take your arm off as it can give you what you need. So it's got to be properly governed. You've got to have the controls in place, the way of viewing, did I get what I want? Did it hallucinate? And these are all easy decisions for the human to come over, approve, manage. We have fine-grained access controls. We've got explicit grants. We've got all the technology to do it. The challenge is getting it funneled so that a human can evaluate 10,000 equations that the AI made, or 10,000 decisions, bubble up the ones that have the high blast area and radius of damage, make sure they are involved at the right steps, and pay less attention to the things that can harm us less, right? The same way we govern people. There's some tasks that I don't micromanage employees for, and there's some tasks where I'm like, nope, this is so important that if there's a single mistake in this, it's going to cause a catastrophe. So the question isn't, can AI get it right? The question is, what's the worst AI can do when it gets it wrong, and can the business survive that and manage that? And how do we control that? And how do we, prevent that?
And I just like to add on to that, not only, it's not like, can the agent do this, but I think fundamentally, should the agent do this? Like, yes, we can build, as you said, whether or not the AI can do it, is the first question, but like, really, should this be something that we use AI for? And that's why, again, it comes back to governance. You need to know what your position is as an organization. What is that line in the sand that you want to draw? The line might move, but you should have a line in the sand that you know what your position is on what you will use AI for and what you will choose not to use AI for.
And
Completely.
I remember a day, I mean, maybe somewhere in 2016, I was working on a project and people were, guessing around like, oh, cloud is just a hype. It's not going to come very soon to us. It will take ages for, to come into the market. Now see it, like cloud is flooded, right? We have hyperscalers. They are the sources of data for us now, right? I think similar challenge will also happen with the AI deployments and with the DIY culture, which enterprises are also adopting. There will be definitely not thousands, definitely millions of agents we will be dealing with. So probably managing those agents, governing those agents, and creating like a health check on the top of it, like a fit for purpose models. We need to start evaluating them. I think those guardrails have to come in place. Otherwise, um, what an agent can do, probably it will never come to you know human can never understand why that agent took an action, because it's just probabilistic model output, right? So if human doesn't get informed about some XYZ things, which we have been doing it, when we have multi-swarm agents, uh, you know working in agentic setup, I think it's very important that we need to make sure that the enterprises are also adhering to these adoptions. They are definitely going to deploy more and more AI agents. That is not going to go away. It's just that we need to modulate it. We need to narrow it down and make sure that right agents are getting deployed, not everything and anything on your platform.
I heard a story the other day. This was months ago, so it's just not new news. One organization had put together an AI analysis, an AI BI system, and the AI was doing their BI for them. And for 6 months, it had been giving them data and numbers. And they turn around and they find out that it had been fabricating it the entire time for 6 months. It's just been creating fake data. And it struck me because I looked at this, and the first thing that I said the first thing that came into my mind was, you never ask an AI to go give you a BA solution. You ask the AI to go write a Tableau query for you, write a Power BI query for you, write a quick site query for you to give you the data you want. That's what you ask the AI to do, because now the data is deterministic. You can go look at it later. You can evaluate the BI. You can have another agent come back and say, hey, is this query going to give me the right results? You can't do that when you just have the raw data coming out. You need to have the AI. The more we drive AI to creating deterministic results, the more successful the AI agentic executions can be. And when you look at some of the work that Andrea are doing on the AIOS, we talk about that. We actually drive towards the fact that the AI needs to have not only a governance layer, but a scripting layer that it can use that is a governed scripting layer. It's not Python, it's not JavaScript, it's not Bash. It's something that has the controls baked in that allows it to do deterministic tasks in a repeatable way and save a corpus of knowledge that we can then go and reuse. Then it's not the AI. The AI is great producers and creators. It has the same problems we have. We modeled it after our minds. It has the same problems we have. It is not fact exact. It's facts approximate. That's the way our mind works. Why do we create databases? To be fact exact. We put the stuff in the databases so that I don't have to remember it.
Alina, you are on mute.
Thanks. So another question everyone seems to struggle when it comes to AI agents across the enterprise is, what should be done by humans and what should be done by AI? What is that right balance between agent autonomy, that human oversight, and we always hear about the human in the loop, but that slows down that whole agentic system to have that human, so that balance is very important. So the question is, where do we draw that line? Where do we put that balance? And what do we keep with humans and what do we give AI to do? And you just mentioned deterministic versus probabilistic. And AI systems are by nature, they are not deterministic, they are probabilistics. So
Yep.
they are definitely gonna be getting a teeny bit more creative, not always consistent, right? So where do we
They
keep
are,
that balance?
AI system is the perfect example of a regression to the mean. It does average great. It doesn't often do below average and it doesn't often do above average, but it does average really great because that's what it's designed to do, is find that mean and regress to the mean. And when it comes to what can we give AI agents, that is all constrained right now, in my opinion, based off of our operating system, our governance layer, our control layer, policy layer, but most importantly, our UI layer. How can the agent show me? Here's the 100 things that I came up with based off of what you said. Help me find the signal from the noise. Uh, If you could create a signal to noise filter for AI, Claude would feel to everyone 20 times smarter than it is today. Because I ask Claude a question and it spews noise at me. And inside of that noise is really great data that I can use. But I have to go shift it out. I feel like I've become a personal sheep of shifting out good data from bad data that AI generates. I need a more effective way. We need a more effective way for the human to be able to quickly evaluate, look at, find the inaccuracies, have them highlighted, brought to our attention, being able to flag them, send them back to the agent, have the agent go off and do more work. Same thing we do today with humans. The difference is the quantity, not the quality. AI may just make the same mistakes as humans. We've had, we were working on a book together. We're using AI for the research. It made mistakes. So did I. I quoted something from a site that I saw and I couldn't find the site, so I didn't have a citation, so I couldn't use it in the book. But it was in the book because I had put it in the first write and I had to go filter it out and say, I can't find this anymore and remove it. Why? Because that's what you do when you go through a process like that. AI has that same problem. The difference is that it can do that 10,000 times before I can do it 10. Now what? How do I view all of this? How do I go through and shift the quality how do I separate the wheat from the chaff from an AI result?
Yeah, that's how do we get it to augment the humans? How do we get it to do the boring parts of the work? Right? The boring number crunching parts, the parts where, people hate, yeah, take that part of my job. That part you can take, right? There's other parts we don't want AI spending time. And there's certain areas we want to avoid. Like I've done a lot of work in mental health and I am avoiding that area with generative AI. It is not ready. And there's just too many risks and different type of risks that I'm talking about. So there's certain areas we want to definitely avoid. We need to be cautious of both the direct and the indirect consequences of using AI. Like a direct one, like AI might make a decision on a loan. Somebody might not get a loan and that affects their livelihood. Or indirect, maybe we're no longer training people on a certain skill and in 3 to 5 years, we're going to have nobody with that skill because the junior people haven't had an opportunity and the experience to move up to being a senior. So a lot of it, it's a great question, right? And I don't think any of us are going to have the answer here about what do we get AI to do versus what we get the people to do. And I think it's about really being conscious about it, being thoughtful about it, and making sure we look, is there bias involved? Is there risk involved? Is there, what's going to happen if we do it? How can we foresee this is going to look like down the road?
Yeah. So to summarize, simplify, I would say, like give a lot of regular mundane, which doesn't need too much of cognitive decisions, low risk elements to the agents right away, and anything that involves a little bit of risk or human judgment and an element of uncertainty, pass it on to the human for a verification. But again, we are keeping the human in the loop, so which means we are not letting the human do all the heavy lifting of the information. For example, if you're validating an insurance claim, and especially where a disability claim, which is very serious, right? So we don't want to reject a claim just like that. So it needs to be thoroughly vetted, not just a decision by an agent. Human needs to be involved in that.
And I would definitely add to the point of human in the loop. I think it slowly and steadily it is moving towards human on the loop, and probably in a few years down the line it will become human over the loop. So I think those shifts are going to happen, and I think that is a right direction. It should happen like that, because currently the agents, they handle the heavy lifting portion of it, as Tim was suggesting, right? Data synthesis, they create the planning for you, they propose actions, they create a plan for you, right? An action plan, implementation plan for you. And that needs a proper human revision, and authorization as well, to whether they should execute or not execute. And I think right now in enterprise, that part is still a bit uh, gray area. I think we still are doing some experimentations around it, but there are very, or I will say very less, I will say fully autonomous executions for workflows which are there, especially in the financial transactions or anything related to like sensitive customer data or maybe some compliant risk. We are not there yet. I mean, we don't want to progress, and we are taking a conservative step, which is really good. And I think as the things will progress over a period of time, I think these current agentic AI systems will definitely get more context, and probably provide a better decision in these high stake environments. So I think orchestrating and evaluating these AI outputs over a period of time will give us more edge, and that will define like how much balance we have to create between agent taking a decision versus how much oversight is required, because future is definitely going to be very tricky given the agentic systems coming into play, right? So I'm pretty sure we will definitely take the right decision, and we will definitely have the agents give more power where they can do things autonomously. But um, if it is high stake environment, I think human has to be there somewhere, on the loop, over the loop, somewhere they need to come and instruct the agents there.
And I think it goes back to what Timothy was saying earlier about risk. It's like if something goes wrong, what is the impact? Okay, well, first of all, what's the probability going wrong? Like you have to do the whole like the risk probability matrix. What's the impact? Is it reversible? All of these different ways to look at for the particular opportunity you're looking at, what is the risk? And some of them it might be, okay, we're dispensing medicine. That's a pretty high risk versus, we're writing a resume. Okay, well, that's like, so like there's different use cases. And
Yeah.
that's why it's really important about
Well,
understanding the risk, evaluating that risk, and making those appropriate decisions before you start the project.
and Jen, to throw in there, even the same decision can have different levels of risk depending on the circumstances. So
Yeah.
Raji spoke just a moment ago about let's take her example of an insurance claim. Perfect example. If you're approving an insurance claim, and if you're approving an insurance claim for less than X amount of money, fine. The agent doesn't even need to consult the human. You did
Yeah.
enough due diligence, you recorded it, you've got the audit trail. We'll let the auditors figure it out. If it was wrong, big deal. Humans make mistakes too. If you're declining a claim for $500,000 of medical bills, maybe that needs a human review. Same decision, same exact workflow, same exact queue of items. One needs much more scrutinous review. One could just pass through. So perfect example there of it's the decision, it's what you're doing with the decision. Same thing with medicine.
The impact.
If you're prescribing aspirin, maybe it's not that big of a risk. It's over the counter. If you're prescribing something else, I mean, and it's the same thing. We have those exact systems in place for humans.
Mm-hmm.
We just have built them at the granularity of humans, which was big blocks, because the human has the capability, the awareness, and the intelligence to figure out the difference and figure out when it's right and when it's not. AI doesn't have that. And let's face it, I mean, the answer for sorry, the patient died can't be the AI going, that's on me.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't take into account that, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. That's on me. That's my bad. Did I do that? No. So it's all about that. That's how you govern it, is the impact analysis, and you set the controls up exactly in that way. And we could deterministically determine here's something that could be riskier, here's something that's not. And we don't have to get it perfect.
Yeah.
We just have to get it slightly wider than we need. We don't want 300 claims to be reviewed by a human, because then they just start rubber stamping them and don't pay any attention to them at all. But we don't want any claim that could be bad not reviewed by a human. So you want that slight over review where we're reviewing a little bit more than we should, but we're always reviewing what we should.
Yeah.
So instead of having that human in the loop, that human maybe on the loop. But for compliance reasons, many processes we actually cannot have without that human oversight right now. And since I work in a financial institution, regulated industry for claims or applications, we tend to have the human oversight. But that means that whole agentic system is going to slow down. That means, and you're right, people do burn out. And if the AI is helping you, at some point you are just clicking and approving something, and you're starting to trust this AI system and not paying attention because you are dealing with thousands of applications or thousands of documents to process. So this human becomes, I guess, tired. And but we need to start thinking creatively and looking ahead. Organizations, those that are going to be successful with agentic AI systems versus those who are not scaling. So let's think forward. Let's think a year or two from now. What will separate those organizations that are going to be successful with agentic systems? And what would you recommend to those who are still stuck in pilots and not managing to scale and drive that ROI?
So for me, I think it's data. Data is going to be the new currency. Actually, I think it already is the new currency. So organizations that properly contain and control their data, like as agents, is going to become a level playing field. It's good, but it's the data. It's the data that's going to be that value. If organization, I mean like structured data, unstructured data, documents, the works. Those are organizations that can keep that with protected and be able to fully leverage their own data to make data-driven decisions will be the ones that succeed.
Jen was spot on. Definitely, there are three areas that the enterprises or the companies that has to start thinking about it. Number one, governance first, like how Jen mentioned, and the second one is the platforms. Like you give guidance to your people underneath you. Otherwise, what will happen is one sub department or one pillar will start experimenting in tool A or hyperscaler A, and then another pillar will start experimenting on another one. So that oversight guidance at the top level on the platform, where do I want to go and where am I putting my eggs in the which basket, right? Not everything in one single basket, maybe one or two. The platform level decisions and guidance from the top, alignment from the top. And the third one, right, nothing is impossible without the people. So the people needs to be aligned as well, the workforce transformation. The companies which are actually helping the people to upskill, adapt, and quickly teach the employees to embrace the AI and not to fear about the AI, and use the AI agents in the innovative way, and bring the change at the grassroots level, right? So end of the day, it's the same framework, the same old framework of people, process, technology, but what varies is, like here it is around AI governance, AI tools and platforms, and about teaching people the right way to use AI.
And plus one to Raja. I mean, I definitely echo your thoughts on that, and I would like to add a few more points on it. I mean, AI on its own if it is getting adopted very diligently in an organization, maybe maybe 3 years or 4 years or 5 years from now, I think if that foundational architecture shift happens slowly, steadily into an enterprise, um, and and if it is not just adopted like a software, I think they are definitely going to modernize their infrastructure. I think that shift is going to happen completely. They will start moving towards more event-driven architectures and AI native platforms, which will be much more cleaner, and much more contextual based rather than you have some latency involved and you are getting some information which is like quite uh, backdated, and you don't know whether you can even rely on those informations, right? So if these things are getting adopted within the enterprise, especially from the AI standpoint, I think that model is definitely going to be upside down, and I think we'll have that uh, progress. I mean, we'll be more digitally transformed in a nutshell. I think so.
So, um, now that we are coming to an end of today's session, we had excellent discussions and we touched upon the governance side of it, the balance between that human and AI. Governing those AI systems, we even looked briefly into those governance frameworks, and good questions this evening. But before we adjourn today for the evening, I have one question for everyone. If you could summarize in just a sentence, how could a company scale their agentic AI systems? And I'm going to ask Tim and Raji and everyone just to give a few words.
Develop your AI OS, put your governance in first, get your controls in place. Don't do pilots at plant acorns so that you can grow a set of governed AI throughout the organization. Software has no value anymore. AI can replace it. AI is going to empower citizens developers across your entire organizations. You're not going to be using the same tools that you used today. They're going to go away. The knowledge of your organization, that is your value. That is the only thing that's keeping your organization and business in the AI era. What you have that no one else does, that AI can draw out more powerfully than other tools in the past have ever given you a way to capitalize and monetize.
So I'll go. So the companies needs to actually think. Do I need to have a frontier models or the largest model or biggest model? That is not going to be the biggest problem or the challenge you're chasing. But what is the right use case where I can actually find value with the right ROI? Otherwise, you are spending your money and nobody's going to be happy. Your board is not going to be happy. And again, like what is that risk involved in that? So that's why the governance is needed. You don't want to actually end up in a penalty or fine and end up your stocks going down. So again, so balance between the innovation and the risk, and staying relevant. Otherwise, like your competitors are going to overtake you. So that's in a nutshell. The industry should be looking at how they want to deploy the UI agents.
Jen, you
Jen?
want to go next, or should I
Sure,
go?
I can go next.
Okay.
So governance, yes.
Yes.
Data, yes. But above all, culture. If your employees are terrified of losing their jobs, if your employees are resisting AI, nothing you try is going to be successful. You need to make sure you engage with your employees, you ask them what their fears are, ask them what their hopes are. You really try to work as much as you can with your team to get them on board. It's going to make a huge difference.
Right. And I think I would only add one point because most of the people have covered the points which I had in my mind. I think the change management portion of it needs to be also properly thought through about it, because not everyone is working at the same space, right? So since we are moving towards AI native businesses, I think creating that organization change management, educating and giving the citizen more power. I think that is the next step also, which will come as we grow in this journey.
Exactly. Yeah.
So excellent points. Culture, governance, data, transformation, that balance.
Change management.
Change management, I've added that one. I actually want to ask you to share a way for our audience to reach you if they're interested. If you have a website, or if you have a way that individuals could connect with you, do share it with us, and feel free to put it in the chat. Or if you want to add a couple of words, you are welcome to do so right now. Thank you. Raji just shared her LinkedIn. Yes, Gen AI Consulting, that's John Nolan. Timothy Stockstill, I know you're from
I'm
Force.
working on it. I'm trying to pull up my LinkedIn right now. Well, here, I'll give you this. There's my
Thank you.
website. There's our website, and I'll have the LinkedIn in a moment.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. It was an excellent discussion. I want to thank our experts, Jen Nolan from Gen AI Consulting. Thank you for, it was good to have you. Raji, thank you so much. Excellent points this evening. Timothy Stockstill from ForceWave. Thank you so much. And we have Deepu Kumar Sen from Fujitsu, and individuals just shared their LinkedIn profiles. So thank you and have a good evening, everyone.